History Month, and I have to thank Dr. Ayin Adams, who I've known for a very, very long time, for helping to set up today's interview. There's going to be an amazing Black History Month Zoom happening Sunday at 10 a.m., and it's going to feature guest artist OSAYANDE Baruti and also you, Michael Oliver Armstrong. And Michael Oliver Armstrong was born and raised in Pasadena. I spent much time there when I was working at K-Rock Radio in Pasadena ages ago. Mr. Armstrong has a Master in Public Administration, MPA, and he explores the impact of public policy on individuals and marginalized communities. His current role is real estate investor and insurance agent. You're very, very involved with many things. You've got a master's degree from California State University, a bachelor's degree from Azusa Pacific University, and a paralegal certificate from the University of California at UCLA. So go there all the time. Also, you've worked 45 years in the county of Los Angeles and done tax collecting, and you volunteer and help as substance abuse counselor. Quite a long list. And you're also, of course, a member of the National Advancement for Colored People Los Angeles branch. So it's very good to have you on the line right now. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine today. And yourself?
Really good. And you know, I think you're probably aware that there's been a long-standing involvement of wonderful people, very, very dedicated to bringing awareness to the African American community in Hawaii and on Maui, particularly here, with the help of some wonderful people. So I was really excited to talk to Ayin about what she's planning for the Zoom. And I guess, how did you get involved from here to there and there to here?
Oh, well, I'm Dr. Shirley Davenport. She had contacted me and asked me would I be a guest and would I speak, which I'm humbled and honored as she asked me.
Well, it's so important at this time, every month at least, to have some focus. And I guess a lot of what you do probably is education as well, right?
Yes. Yes, I do.
And I'd hope with education becomes there's more awareness. And I think there is becoming more awareness. How do you feel about the state of we have the State of the Union coming up here after my show, actually at 4:00 today here. But how do you feel about the state with the awareness? You know what I'm seeing, Michael, is I'm seeing that we are becoming aware of the problem, but we still have a long ways to go as we become aware of the problem of how do we solve these difficult issues. And I know you were going to talk a little bit about the situation with the police. So how do you balance out those scales?
Yes, mainly to become aware, and I believe that all fathers should have what I call the talk with their sons. I think it's very important to just keep them alive, to keep, if they go out, to have them come home safe. I think that the police has the upper hand, when they stop their, especially young black youth, boys and girls, men and women, that they should, if it's a simple traffic stop, keep your hands on the wheel, and be as compliant as possible. No sudden moves, and just try to stay safe, because life is so valuable. I just heard a few minutes ago that one of the police officers that had killed Tyree Nichols in Memphis, Tennessee, he took pictures of Mr. Nichols after the beating, and on his personal cell phone, and sent it out to about 5 people. I just got the news.
Wow, that gave that's chilling.
I don't know if it's something personal or what.
Wow, that's chilling. I think what it was interesting in this last case was that it was the visuals, of course, were there, and it's for that to see. But I think some people were shocked, and I heard some discussions about, well, these were black officers. How could black officers attack that violently a black person. And I think that we have to really explore the fact that there can be violence still. Obviously, in this situation, there's been a big push to have and integrate more police departments with black people, which is a first step. But then we realized again the problem isn't just that. When we saw this situation, weren't you shocked as well?
Yes, I was. And I believe what happened is that these black officers, these 5 black officers, forgot that they were black. And they thought that nothing would happen because they, lied on the police report that he resisted arrest, and that's why they beat him and tasered him, and they don't know why he died. But I think that they thought that they would get away with it, and once again they forgot that they were black, and they didn't realize it would only take 20 days before their charge was second-degree murder.
Yeah, and again in this education and awareness process, we look back at the history that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. left us, and I think we're still, and I'd like your opinion on this, I think we're still listening to those words, seeing those words, and going, wow, that was what happened then. Now, some of the things there's been steps forward, but have we done enough? And obviously, I think you'd know the question, right? I mean, obviously, when we see these issues now, I guess we have not done enough, right?
Right. I think some of us, we try to do all we can. Like I'm writing articles for the Pasadena Journal. I have a Black History calendar that I have available to different people, and especially my grandchildren. I have my 11-year-old grandchild, reading the articles that I write on Black history. And I read the letter from the Birmingham jail that Martin Luther King wrote. And even back then, some of the white clergymen had said that he was moving too fast. He needs to slow down. And why is he coming to Birmingham? Why does he stay in his lane in Atlanta, in Georgia, and let us handle our own problems? And Dr. King had said that that our moms and our fathers and are being murdered and slaughtered. Something has to be done. The problem is we're moving too slow, and we're just going to have to use our bodies. We may get beaten, but we just have to keep going forward. No matter what. We can't wait any longer. We just have to keep on moving forward.
And you have to wonder
no
how many
what.
people are going to be sacrificed and are still being sacrificed. I mean, over the years since Martin Luther King Jr. died and was killed. I mean, think of all the others that have had to stand in line, and some knowingly, some very knowingly, and then some not. Now, I'd like to ask you personally because you're in Los Angeles. I was born in Los Angeles and raised. And how do you feel when you interact with people in your community and talk to people who have issues? How do you feel that you're doing in Los Angeles now?
You mean when I interact with people who have dealt with the police?
Yeah, when you hear stories and interact,
Well, I'm listening, and I'm trying to get all the facts. And what I'm trying to push is voting. For one thing.
Yeah.
And I'm also trying to deal with the mental health of people. I've talked to, at the time, I talked to the mayor of Los Angeles, before she was elected, Karen Bass, that, a lot of the problems with the houseless or the homeless is that it's a mental health problem, along with alcohol and drug problem, that it's a mental health.
Yeah.
And we have to deal with the mental health problem. And there is a number now that's in Los Angeles, and I guess perhaps all over the country, where if you're having a mental health episode, you can call that number to get help. You know.
Well, I think that's again a step, but we see this, of course, here too. There are people that do have drug problems. There are people that have alcohol problems. There are people that have mental health problems not related to drug and alcohol. I mean, I'd say those are, that oftentimes they do overlap. And then there's another category, which unfortunately I don't know if people have explored enough, which is those that are having mental health issues that may be on drugs, which may not be compatible with other things they may be taking or may cause damage to that particular person. You know, and I know if someone has schizoid or a situation with bipolar, it can take for someone to actually get diagnosed properly. It can take months to get the proper medications. You know, it's not an easy thing to just say, "Oh, you're bipolar, take your meds." How often do they really, or is there time and money enough to really deal with people who have episodes? I don't know if there have been studies done about situation in mental health and how much this is related to situations where there have been problems that have been ending in unfortunate situations where there has been stops and death or maybe situations. We do hear every now and then about people that were stopped that had some mental health issues. Do you see that in your research and studies? Do you see that as an issue?
Yes, very much so. In Los Angeles, there's 3 men have died from police bullets, and all 3 had mental health problems. The last one of the last ones was a double amputee.
I saw that. I saw that. That was that was heartbreaking.
He couldn't even walk. He was trying to get away, but the problem was he was trying to get away from the police, but they still shot him in the back. Just one after another. They went into the kitchen of one, and he was trying to use a chair to protect himself, and they shot and killed him.
I saw that. Yeah, that was heartbreaking. That was heartbreaking. And especially a visitor. He was from the East Coast, I think Washington, D.C., and he was here on a visit, to the Los Angeles area, and he was a school teacher. Oh no!
And he had a child.
Wow.
And they killed him.
I did not know that information behind it. I think we have someone else on the line right now. I'm sorry. Who's calling in?
Aloha, awinalo, kauko. This is Dr. Shirley Davenport.
Oh, thank you, Shirley. We've got on the other line here. I'm having a very deep conversation with the wonderful man, Michael Oliver Armstrong. I'm sure you know him because I think you asked him to be a part of the Zoom broadcast that the African American on Maui Association is having at Sunday at 10 o'clock. So, Shirley, thank you so much for calling in.
You're very welcome. And I take it this is Cindy.
Yes, it is. And maybe you can join with Michael here because we're trying to discuss how the big step between awareness of the issue and the problems that are facing the Black community, the education, and then where you go to make the changes after the awareness. Our last little talk here was about the problem with sometimes mental illness and how that's not being treated properly, and it can cause problems and incidents as well. So Michael, do you want to ask Shirley, or do you want to have a carry discussion? You can both hear each other. Do you want to have a little discussion about this and carry that on?
Sure. Dr. Shirley, what I was talking about was the 3 young men were killed by the Los Angeles Police Department, and the last one was amputee, and he was trying to get away, and he had a mental problem, and his either his sister or his mother had stated go out and get some air, and that's when the police had found him and killed him. Then they had the one before that. It was a visitor from the East Coast, Washington D.C., and he was came to L.A. on a vacation. And he had a young son, and he was also a school teacher, and the police had killed him. And the thing about it is, I think the main thing is mental issues that they have. They want to get help. Instead of sending the police, they should send maybe a social, calmly and try to de-escalate the situation. And the situation was Tyree Nichols. Out of all those black police officers and him, he was the only one trying to de-escalate the situation. He was saying, you guys are doing too much. And they were beating him, and he said, you guys are just doing too much. You don't need to be doing this. It was backwards.
Yes, when the victim got to be the one to try to de-escalate the situation.
You know what I just thought of, and you brought this up, I think it's interesting, and I just have Leslie coming in and joining me. It's good to see you, Leslie. You know what? I'm just kind of epiphany here. You know what? You're so right, Michael. I think that there needs to be a whole force, not the police force, but those who are really trained, actual people who know how to de-escalate and know how to deal with mental health issues, that are negotiators, not policemen in these situations, and they should be available. I mean, Leslie is joining us now. Leslie, what do you have to say about something like that?
Yes, and good afternoon, and thank you, everyone. I totally agree. Being a social worker myself, who also has worked a great deal of my career in law enforcement, one of the things is that we say is that we need people to effectively handle these situations, that are trained in de-escalation, that are trained in mental health, that can respond to situations such as this. So, supporting law enforcement to be able to do what they're supposed to do. But there's so much that is put on law enforcement that should not be their responsibility. If someone's in a mental health crisis, send a mental health professional there to help with the situation. We need to have proper training on de-escalation. We need to fund our mental health services,
Yes.
fund our education, fund these things. And it's a reallocation of services so that we can support the people that are doing the work, so that we can have healthy communities. When we look about the origins of policing, especially here in Hawaii and in America, they're not great origins. They were more to oppress. And so if we can get to what really keeps people safe, I think we'll be on a lot better footing and engaging the community. How does the community want to be kept safe? What does safety look like for them? Because a lot of times safety doesn't look like that police presence. But if we invite people to the table, we can get so much more done.
Very well said, Leslie.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Shirley, I wanted to bring you in because it's now a four-way conversation. You know what? Leslie said some interesting things, but here's the situation. You have these police officers, high adrenaline, charged up on who knows what. Maybe too many donuts. I'm sorry if I'm but they're definitely, their adrenaline's going crazy, and we can see in these videos how they're completely losing it. So in those situations, I can't imagine someone that was a negotiator coming down in time to stop this, unless they were present in the backseat of a police car or something. How would you solve this situation, Shirley?
Well, truly, if we had to put a psychologist or somebody in the back of the police cars, we wouldn't have any for clinical service in the clinic.
It's true.
Because the workforce isn't that huge.
Yep.
What strikes me to the core on this, simply calling it what it is, police brutality, is a lot of them work out and they're probably on steroids and they probably have a drug problem or alcohol problem themselves. They drink all the time, the buddy kind stuff,
Yeah.
Not every single one of them, but quite a few of them. So they need mental health evaluations before they get hired, at what their background history is. I've worked so much with domestic violence where there is not necessarily mental health, and the perpetrator is the officer. They create so many Stockholm syndrome in women who's afraid to leave them.
That is the
I
truth.
work with these people.
That's the truth. Yep.
So it starts with the problem.
Yeah.
And the problem in this instance is social control among the black community by policing, as well as the mental health issues that the police officers have themselves.
I couldn't help but think, and maybe you can join in on this, Michael, because I know you've been dealing with this a long time. A lot of police officers sometimes are former veterans of war. And oftentimes those people are already kind of gone through some situations that can be triggered, I think, very easily in situations. And sometimes they're security officers, and sometimes there are situations in their history that could indeed trigger something. What's your idea on that, Michael?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I had mentioned the mayor, Karen Bass, and she has some requirements that many people were upset because she decided to keep the police chief that's in charge now, Michael Moore. But she made some requirements. One of the requirements is that all police officers, every police officer, go through a mental health training. And there's no ifs and buts about that, no excuses. They all have to go through a mental health training in order to keep their job, for number one. And I know it's going to be difficult to have a social worker in the car or nearby, at all times, because they're on steroids. They're hepped up and they want to go and they want to do something and they're trigger happy. So that's one good thing. And I believe that you were talking about the veterans of war. Some of the insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol on January 6th
were police officers.
A couple of years ago, they were veterans of war. They had been in the Army, or they'd been in the service, and a few of them were police officers.
Yep, I remember that. Yep. And that's the state of mind. That's the consciousness that these people take on as we are going to fight, right? And that's the kind of, and without a battle to fight on, they come home and sometimes the battle's on the streets here of America.
I think that you're bringing up a very, very good point. Very good point.
They're fighting somebody, and they don't care who it is. They just want to fight and, storm the Capitol and storm the seat of democracy. And they forgot, so the police officers that killed Tyree, they forgot they were black and thought nothing would happen. And the same with some of the people that stormed the Capitol. Nothing's going to happen, because they had a former president who did whatever he wanted to do, and nothing happened to him. So they thought that nothing would happen to them, and he got them reared up and ready to go, and got them on steroids, ready to go. Let's storm the Capitol, no matter what.
So Shirley,
I think that the mayor, Karen Bass, who I met, and also Dr. Shirley has met, is moving in the right direction in wanting to have every officer have training in mental health situations.
Yeah.
And to that point, if I may, I absolutely agree, and I honor and mahalo Mayor Bass for having that mandate. We need to have mandates like that right here at home. I grew up here in Maui. I want Maui to be a safe place for women, girls, and people to raise their families, to go to school, to work. And if we're thinking about those things and we look at the things that actually keep people safe, as Dr. Shirley talked about, making sure we fund our clinics so that if people are in a stressful situation or before it even gets there, let's normalize getting mental health care. Let's normalize that. Let's normalize that for within the Black community, and let's normalize that here in Hawaii and far beyond. Let's normalize that for our police officers. Let's have it be a mandate, and let's normalize people seeking help. If you get shot in the leg, you want to go see a doctor, right? If your mental health isn't well, go see a professional who can help you before we have not one more hashtag. Not one more hashtag. I do this work as an attorney and a social worker. My very best friend was murdered by her husband while their child was an infant. She sought the help of the police. She sought help, and she lost her life.
I have seen this too many times.
People
do not realize on Maui what a terrible, terrible situation it is for domestic violence. And you brought up a good point that yes, sometimes these are police officers, and sometimes they think they have the right, because they are a police officer, to be a bully in their own homes, and they don't. I've seen it too, and it's terrible. We've got a terrible situation here, and I hope by people like you, Shirley, I'd like to have you chime in. I'm sorry, we've been kind of hogging the time. What do you think about the situation and how it can be helped as far as people seeking mental health?
I gotta agree. There is a lot of stigma behind seeking help, and especially for mental health. But your mental stability is just as important as your physical strength and your physical ability, as well as your cognitive ability. So if you got the ability to think clearly, then you need to have the ability to reason, to go be logical, reason, as well as be able to assess a situation. Because sometimes the things that they rush into is not a problem, like the videotape. It shows no problem with Tyree driving, but they saying he was driving all haphazardous and they had to stop him. They could have reassessed that and say, is that a problem? Is he really driving?
Yeah.
And not even approach the car or try to put him on a high-speed chase or anything. And so I take it back to mental health checkups. We have to have a physical every year on our jobs. We should have to have a mental checkup every year on our job. We have to have annual TB tests. We should be having annual mental health exams. And we do have. I also sit on the board of the Oahu Area Service Board for Mental Health and Substance Abuse for the governor. I was appointed, and we have mental health first aid. It's a very simple program, and we have the CBI too, the CTS, the de-escalation training that we send the police officers through. And those trainings are so brief that they really don't get to the nuts and bolts as to why it's important that they need these kind of training, as well as a mental health first aid is not a full concentration of a 4-year college study degree in mental health. So again, it's very brief intervention, and it wouldn't hurt them to go through it every 6 months or repetitively, because we can have all the knowledge in the world, and if we don't practice it and make it perfect sense, then it does us no good.
Well, if
they're not going to be using it every single.
If as much time was spent on target practice and shooting practice as on mental health practice, we might have some beginning of a solution, maybe, perhaps. We would hope.
That is so true.
Absolutely agree, because when you think about it, I used to work for Fort Worth Police Department, and didn't want to keep showing up to homicides, suicides, and children in shackles, and walking in front of my desk, like working with I worked in the Special Victims Unit. And now returning back to Hawaii, and a Tatiana Jefferson being killed in her home just down the street. I do Big Brothers Big Sisters. My little sister lives 2 blocks from her.
Wow.
Was shot and killed in her own home. We can't play video games in our homes now. And that young man who was there with a Tatiana Jefferson, her nephew, was just 7 years old. And his mother recently passed away, Amber Carr, around my age. Police violence not only kills the person, it is systemic and it's harming to the community. This young man has now lost his aunt to police violence. His mother died of heart failure. I want to mahalo Attorney Lee Merritt, who has been fighting these fights throughout the United States. But we have to get real about it, as Dr. Shirley said, because it's not just the person that's murdered. It's the family that's affected, and whether you know that person or not, that impacts. Though I was 4,000 miles away, my little sister lives 2 blocks from where Tatiana was murdered. The pain that my heart felt having worked with those officers and begged for diversity, equity, inclusion training. Can we have this? Can we have what they were talking about? Can we have mental health? When is enough enough?
Now, that's a very big question. And, at some point, people stop feeling just the pain and they react with anger. And, we see this for a good reason, right? I mean, it's just like, how can you not react in some way? I want to thank both of you, Shirley and Michael. We have our next guest in the studio, so I'm going to continue here with our conversation with Leslee, and we're going to move on and talk also to another wonderful guest who's come in. But I do want to remind people, this is going to be something that they'll be able to participate in and see this Sunday, a wonderful Zoom event that's happening through our wonderful friends who are celebrating Black History Month through the African Americans on Maui Association. It's this Sunday, by the way, and it's going to be, you can go to Africanamericansonmaui.com. If you don't remember this password, there's a password, and it's rather long, and I know when you're driving it's hard to get that also. I'm just going to say go to African Americans on Maui, or you can call them at 808-341-3458, 808-341-3458. And thank you, Michael, and thank you, Shirley, for your wisdom and your insight and your input. I really appreciate you taking the time to call in today.
Thank you so much,
very
Cindy.
much.
We really
Thanks for
appreciate
the
the
invite.
opportunity. And yes, please do come out and join us on our Zoom broadcast event on February the 12th, starting at 10 a.m. Thank you so much. Aloha.
Aloha. And I'm really happy and excited, actually. I don't know if I can read the 5-page bio that I have on you. It's a rather let me bring up your mic. It's a rather long bio, and I have to say I'm super, super impressed. But I want to make sure I pronounce your name right. OSAYANDE BARUTI?
Correct.
And listen to his voice. He's got quite an amazing background
Life is
in
good.
musical theater, and one of our heroes, in fact, our general manager here, actually had a chance to interview and talk to one of the wonderful shows that you. I'm sorry, my mic is jumping up here. I'm laughing because my mic's going way over my head, which is Paul Robeson, who was, I think, not given enough. I mean, people know he sang Old Man River, but I don't know if they know his background like you do, because you were able to represent him in your. Was that a musical theater show, or how did you do the Paul Robeson?
The Paul Robeson is I have a one-man show on Paul Robeson. And a friend of mine who knew I was doing that went to Carnegie Hall to do his new show, and they asked me to come and be a special guest. What they didn't tell me was that I was going to sing a Paul Robeson song.
Oh, my.
And so they're on the same stage in Carnegie Hall as Paul Robeson stood. I went and stood right on his spot, and I sang Mammy's Little Kinky-Headed Boy.
Wow.
Which is one of the few spiritual songs that he sings that a lot of people don't know about.
I didn't know about it. You know about it?
No, I'm
No.
learning, and this
I know.
is such great, and especially during Black History Month, to learn this from you. It's amazing.
Well, and Paul Robeson, in his own way, broke a lot of barriers. Of course, Old Man River, I mean, they did not want to have a black person sing that, as I remember my
That's right.
history. It's created in the show as to express this amazingly powerful song, Old Man River, and they were going to have someone who wasn't black sing it.
Yes, because they didn't want to riot. Because they didn't quite understand how powerful the song was. But when he did it, and they started crying and saying, okay, this is the way it should be interpreted. Everything is interpretation.
Yeah.
And his interpretation was so powerful that they had to put it in the movie. And it changed the world of
It
movies.
did? It
Changed the
did?
world of movies, that's for sure.
It's so funny. I have a friend I've done quite a few CDs with who's from India, but has been in Sacramento now most all of his life and is working actually with the government there. And I've worked on a lot of projects with him. And I said, well, after our last one, I said, what's the new project? He says, I want to do a movie on Paul Robeson. I said, Paul Robeson? Why would you're from India? Why would you? He says, Paul Robeson was a huge influence in India. I said, what? He said, yes, because of his stance on civil rights and how he broke down the walls. And I had no idea that it had reached not just America, but it had reached around the world and to India.
Yes. Matter of fact, I just sent an email. I'm doing correspondence with some people from Glasgow because he was their May Day parade guest of honor.
Wow.
40 years ago.
Huh.
And so I said, well, maybe you can have me come by and, come on. I'll just come on by, Scotland. And so we're talking about that now because this is the 125th anniversary of his birthday.
Amazing.
On
Is it
April
really?
the 9th. And they are quite interested in that, so we're talking.
Oh, you have to keep us up to date.
Oh yeah, so when was the? I mean, how do you sing that song? I mean, because everyone in their mind has Paul Robeson's.
Carefully.
Yeah. I mean, because that takes such. Of course, you can hear in your pipes but it takes not just the singing, right? It takes that soul of that song.
Again, it's interpretation. Some of the lines that he interpreted, I didn't do it that way. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's all about who the person is that's singing the song.
That's true.
If you don't understand the song, you cannot sing the song. If you haven't lived the song, you can't sing the song. Mm. So being that, I sort of understood the song, I did it my way, but with my inflections, but I did it with him on the stage next to me, telling me how to sing it. So that's how I got away with it. And I just did it last February for his 124th birthday, me and Jamaluddin Takuma. He has a show, and he asked me to do Paul Robeson. And when I asked everyone what was the song they liked the best, we did 16 songs, and everybody said Old Man River. So I was pretty shocked because I was sure they were not going to say Old Man River. I didn't think I did it good that night, but that's what they said. They said your interpretation just took us to another place.
Wow.
I don't know, Leslie. Should we ask him to sing a couple bars?
I mean, you must have gotten into my mind because I need to feel that. I need to hear that.
Not ready.
And I would love for you to bless us if you can with a small piece.
He's with his voice.
I don't know if I can do Old Man River. Maybe.
or something because we've got to
oh, your mommy, little kinky-headed boy. How she loves you when you have to hear her call. Angels creeping while you're sleeping. Shh, closer in my arms, fill me with your charms. Mommy's little kinky-headed boy.
Goes right through you.
Mommy's little kinky-headed boy.
Beautiful.
Mahalo.
Your voice resonates through the body. I don't know if people can hear it through the microphone, but here in this room, you can hear that voice going through you.
Yes.
And one thing is, having been involved in music most of my life, music can heal.
Yes, it can.
Music can heal, and music can inspire.
Absolutely.
And a lot of things can happen in music and song that you couldn't even say as much maybe in words. I mean, I have to go back to that moment, that terrible, when there was the death, and Barack Obama and doesn't have a great voice, but when he sang Amazing Grace, how even if you can't sing it well, just the intention of joining people together,
Yes.
where words couldn't with a song, brought the group together, right? And then when people saw it, it brought the world together a lot, right?
Absolutely. My mom is a stroke survivor. Thank God she's going to celebrate 18 years since we almost lost her to a major stroke. And my mom is Rainy Doc Matthews, and she's back here living on Maui. My brother, we've been a musical family. And so what you just sang spoke to my heart because it was music that helped unlock, to bring my mom's mind and body back to life. My brother said, to tap this, let's do this melody together, Mom. And so when you talk about what the power that music has, and when you shared your gifting, that brings me back to that is the thing that helped my mom. We're going to celebrate her 72nd birthday this month. So thank you
the
for
magic
music,
of that.
the magic of music.
And I just watched a PBS video about how the tuning the mind, it's called, and it's talking about how we were talking about the problems with mental health, and they're taking people with PTSD now and teaching them songs and making them sing, and how that singing is bringing out that other part of them that was buried because of the violence they experienced. They shut their heart down and their feelings down, and all of a sudden through song, and not only that, people with autism. Glenn Campbell, the story of Glenn Campbell. He had Alzheimer's, he couldn't remember anything. And Tony Bennett, did you see that PBS show on Tony
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
That moment where he didn't know anything and he goes out on stage
And he can sing.
and he can sing, And you have that gift with your music. So how did you land up here on Maui with us? You've been to New York, you've been all around the world.
Well, I lived in Waikiki from 96 to 2002. And I made a CD here called Unforgettable in Honolulu. I do a tribute to Nat King Cole.
Wow.
And matter of fact, I did it at Cafe Sistine in Waikiki about 6 or 7 times, and his brother came to one of the shows and was crying because I sang a song that he hadn't heard in a long time. And he said, you brought back, Nat King Cole. We're both Pisces, so I sort of really understand Nat King Cole. But so I did that while I was in Waikiki, and I was a motivational trainer. I train all over the world.
What do you train?
How to be a better person. Literally, everyone says, "What is motivational training?" I said, forget the topic. It's not about the topic. It's about being a better person, no matter what you want to do, no matter who you are. Just be a better person. And so now it looks like I may have a TV show based on that called Chasing Rainbows.
I love that. Sounds like something we do in Hawaii every day.
Every
Right,
day.
every day. So a friend of mine from Tennessee wrote a beautiful song. They gave it to me to sing, and I turned it into a television program. So hopefully it'll be on next year.
So who did the screenwriting on that? Did you write that?
It's my show. I created it.
You created it.
Chasing Rainbows.
So you're going to have music in there.
Yeah, it'll be music on there, but every week we're going to take a different person and we're going to change their life, and we're going to ask them who was the person that most influenced you, and we're going to bring them wherever they are in the world to the studio.
Oh, so it'll be kind of a real, reality TV.
It's a reality TV variety show.
Oh, I
Never
like
been
that.
done
No,
before.
No. That's pretty amazing.
It's different.
There's so many ways we're trying to join the world together in a positive way. And I see your beautiful energy and feel it here. And I'm going, this is the kind of energy that transforms, But it takes a lot longer than we want it to.
Yes, it does.
It takes so much patience, when you see the truth and you see and know the truth. And you can't help but wonder how long, how long is this going to take,
It's going to take forever because every generation spawns more problems, different problems. Even though we think they're the same, they're very different. I do not understand the generational problems that's going on with the 20-year-olds, and they don't understand the 60-year-olds.
Yeah.
But everybody has to have their people helping them in their generation.
Yeah.
And mostly everyone who I help is over 50. It's a lot of people over 50 who are totally lost. Sadly to say it, it really is.
Yeah.
And then, having that opportunity, because I can learn so much from you, having that opportunity to build community with uncommon allies. And though the generations change, how do we learn? How do we learn from each other, and getting together and sharing music and sharing culture and sharing life experiences so that...
Well, it used to be church.
And, that's a good place.
It's not
Yeah.
anywhere, but I'm sure your family and, you remember going in Aretha Franklin's family and all those, you go back to probably Nat King Cole. It was church.
It was church.
Right?
First time I sang was in church.
Yeah.
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 That was the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whether it's that physical church, both of my parents are ministers. My dad was a minister of music right here on Maui. And it's also bringing that church to the community and making sure the community feels love. The Bible says they will know you by their love. They will know me by their love for me. So how are we loving people first, right? How are we letting that love show? Are we showing that through music, through culture, through food? Here in Hawaii, we love to gather over food.
Food works wonders, and aloha works miracles.
Yeah.
And and we know this, but yet sometimes we forget. Sometimes We forget, and we don't know it. You know what happens is when we forget, then we have to remember, look back and go, oh, that was what happened, and go deeper to the part you don't want to remember. Oh my gosh, maybe that, and then it's like back on yourself, right?
Well, that's what we need to start emphasizing in Black History Month, because a lot of people don't really understand how serious and important it is to other people around the world who are not Americans, who really want to understand why we're still here. And I cannot tell you how heavy that is.
It is.
And we get a chance to do that with Black History Month around the world, because for whatever reason, commercialism works when it's done the right way. And that is why I love Black History Month. I'm always doing something during Black History Month.
Education is a beautiful thing, and I have to say on PBS I've seen some amazing shows that have been very inspiring, and they are doing their part, I believe, really. What's the name of that show with the guy that goes back into the roots and looks back at the people?
Gates.
That's an amazing.
It's an amazing
It's an
journey.
amazing, and you see, the awakening in people's faces. And some of the white people had slaves, and some of the white people had black ancestors they didn't know about, and some of the black people had white ancestors they didn't know about. And there was all these going, wow, you see, it is all combined in one,
I tell everyone, go get your DNA done. My ancestry came up with 7% Scottish
Well, there you go.
in my DNA.
So there you go.
And if people know their history,
Yeah.
which I didn't, I had to go find out how that happened. And when I did, it was remarkable because a Scottish man wrote a book about it.
Really?
Yes, he wrote a book about how his grandmother hated African Americans, and he could never understand why. And then he found out that her grandmother was brought to America by the King of England, sent them over there, and they put them on a farm with the black slaves.
Wow.
Now, what an amazing story.
So amazing.
That could be another show you could do. That could just be another interesting show you
That's
could do.
an interesting story. Yes, it is.
But how beautiful is that you get to talk with people from all over the world, and have that worldview, and see that we are more, we are people.
We're one.
We're one.
Yeah.
We're one. I was watching the Grammys just the other day, and they had the 50th anniversary of hip hop, and you had just the different generations coming. And it was beautiful expression of culture and music. And I just was like, I love this. And then you remember how far we've come just in that movement. But if we're talking to people, we see we're people. We're one. Our culture transcends everything.
Yeah.
You can see Black history and Black culture in a touch of everything. And so if we can get around that and see and get past the things that keep us divided, and how do we love one another? How do we experience, like you're saying, and I have to admit, I was a little bit afraid to do my DNA because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to find, or is my history written?
It's scary. You should do it. You have to
and
do
I
it.
did it, and
Oh,
I
good.
love it. I'm exploring.
Isn't that powerful?
It's powerful. I'm finding old pictures, and I'm finding registries, and I had to get past that fear because I said, I don't know what my history is going to be as a black person, because our history was different. But get past that. Get to know who you are. Get to know people that are different from you, because if you're only speaking to people that think the way you think, look the way you look, how do you expand your horizon? And that's the beauty. So thank you. You must have spoke to me several years ago.
Actually, on that show, I just saw Viola Davis was on one of these episodes, and she just got the EGOT. She's gotten all the awards now. And on top on the show, you mentioned the hip hop. Well, before that, they had the show. Who else was there? Stevie Wonder.
Yes,
incomparable. So we all can appreciate that. But then we've got to realize that's us too. That's me as a white person as well. I mean, that's music I grew up with. And that's what I love. Biggest album was actually done by Fulton Touchambe. And Fulton. I don't know if you knew Fulton Touchambe. What an amazing guy he was. Great musician. And so, that's me also. Some of my best music was done with people. I'm doing a new album with a lady that's the first African-American head of the Grammy chapter in San Francisco. And I'm doing about her overcoming cancer, called You Are a Miracle.
Wow.
You see people's soul. There's no color in the soul.
Right.
You don't have color in a soul. You don't have color in an aura. You don't have color in that at all, you know. So what is this judging people by a color, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, what do you got there?
Ooh,
That's
let's
my
see.
CD from Unforgettable in Honolulu, 1997 in Waikiki, and that's from Tower Bookstore.
Okay, you got to do one song now. I mean, you're going to
No,
bring that out. You got to do a
can't-
song. I mean,
can't
Unforgettable.
even
You
think about-
might have to
Oh,
do.
everybody wants you to do the two songs that a singer never wants to sing in
But
person
you called it
because they're too
Unforgettable.
It's right
hard
here.
to do.
I could play it.
I was
going
very
out.
smart because I didn't sing Unforgettable on this CD.
That's a part two.
That was
It's the
very
next
smart.
one.
That was very smart. Very smart. But yes, I love doing that, and there were some incredible musicians living here then. Jerry Martini from Sly and the Family Stone, Master Henry Gibson from Curtis Mayfield, and
Wow.
Nina Pointer used to hang out in Waikiki. I mean, it was all of us were here at that same time, so there were some incredible combinations of artists, and we just kept grooving and changing the form and everything. It was wonderful then.
Well, I sure hope you will join us on Sunday if you have some time to just share a little bit. Sunday, African Americans on Maui Association is going to be having our Black History event, and I just think that what you're sharing is absolutely incredible. So if you're able to join us, and we're going to keep it short because we know it's the Rihanna concert is that day, aka the Super Bowl.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
But what a beautiful day because
But it's at 10, so it'll be
It's
before.
at 10, so you can still catch the game. But it is history. We have the first time in history that two Black quarterbacks are going to be taking in the Super Bowl. We have Rihanna that's going to be there, so come and join us. African Americans on Maui Association at 10 a.m. And incredible history that we're talking about. Unforgettable in Honolulu. The work that you're doing. Paul Robeson, I mean, my goodness, you, my friend, are history. You are Black history.
That's what my daughter says.
The number, if you want information, 808-341-3458. That's 808-341-3458. I'd be amiss if I didn't give a shout out to Ayin Adams, who's been working hard behind the scenes getting this together as well, and working hard for a long time on Maui here with this. If you want the password for the Zoom, it's FLH 808. 808, easy to remember, FLH 808. You know, there's also a number here, 698-305-9935. It's hard to remember all that. So you can go to African Americans on Maui. There's a poster there. Scroll down to the bottom of events, and that has that all there for you. We only have like a minute and a half. I want to remind people, we will be airing the State of the Union address at 4 o'clock on this radio station. And I have to really say thank you to everyone. Wonderful people. I mean, you know, both of you, and to talk earlier, I was just really inspired by the people who were giving insight and information into trying to figure out how we solve these situations and make the world a better place, you know. I thank Shirley as well. I am really appreciative also from Michael Oliver Armstrong for calling in. Leslee Matthews, what a difference you're making. Managing attorney here, first black lawyer that's taken on, that was working with the prosecutor's office. Is that correct?
Yeah, when I was serving at the prosecutor's office, I was the only Black female prosecutor in the entire state of Hawaii. So changing the world. We're going into spaces that we were traditionally designed to be kept out of, and making a difference and bringing people in, bringing the community in, and going out to the community. And so that's what my law firm's all about, is meeting people right where they are.
Thank you for that, and thank you so much. What a treat to meet you. And I hope everyone takes some time to learn a little bit this month. You know, look up some of these shows, find out a little bit more, become aware. And thank you so much for listening, and aloha.
Aloha.